Hey guys, thanks for joining me this morning on the Dad Code Podcast. Real dads, real talk, no BS. Before we get started here, go ahead and like and subscribe on YouTube for me. Give us a follow on Rumble and go ahead and check us out on Twitter at the underscore dad underscore code, as well as on Instagram, the Dad Code Podcasts. And you can also find the audio version of all of these episodes on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. So, jumping into a Coach Dad segment today, um, another game update. We had our third game yesterday, and it was a victory. Very hard fought victory, but I think I want to really highlight some things that started to show through that I think that could be important for coaches to take note of and to notice in the future, because uh, it's a constant grind, if you will, for coaches, because we got to continue to get these kids better, and you got to be able to notice the little things. So first off, we beat a very good team. We beat them 9-6. It was the Reds. They're very well coached. They got some good players, very similar to us. Um, I think we have the better overall team. Um, and so, however much of that is just me being confident in me and my boys, whatever. But, this wasn't our best game. I actually thought it was a pretty bad game for us, and I would never let the kids know this, but, the fact that we can play poorly and still beat a very good team bodes pretty well. But also at the same time, you got to continue to try to get these kids better, and you got to keep them focused while still enjoying the fact that they're winning. Um, you want them to be happy, but you don't want to be satisfied, if that makes sense. Um, but in this game, we saw some kids that started to show some signs of cracking under pressure. Because there's certain kids that I put more pressure on and I have higher expectations for than others. I think it's particularly the kids that I have coached in the past. I'm thinking of one in particular that I almost feel like he's kind of the captain of our team. He's a very slight guy. He's a little guy, but man, he's like Mighty Mouse. He just packs a mighty punch. But I'm starting to see some signs that some of these kids are. It's not that they're not up to it. It's just it's a lot for 8-year-olds. We're talking about 8-year-old kids here, 7 and 8-year-olds. So something we have to be mindful of is that when you put all that pressure on a really young kid like that, sometimes just outright they can't handle it. And I don't know if that's what this kid has going on. But one of the ways that I think that we can alleviate some of that stress, because I don't ever want baseball at this age to feel like it's an obligation, or it's a chore or anything like that, or if it shouldn't be a stressor in their life. It should be fun. So one way that I think we can make it more fun for these kinds of kids is if we go out there. I have this particular kid that I have in mind. He only plays second base. That's all we've ever asked him to play this year, because we want to keep our middle infield strong. Our two middle infielders are very strong. Could you switch him from second to short and put the shortstop on second? Yeah, sure. But that's still a lot of pressure to be putting on a young kid who's showing signs of fatigue, pressure fatigue. Um, so what I decided to do is put him on a completely different position altogether, but yet have it still be an important position. So I put him at the pitcher position. I wanted him to feel like he's still really involved in the every pitch aspect of the game. He can still kind of feel, like he's important. Not that infield is more important than outfield, but at this age, that's kind of what they think, right? So, putting him on a different position, a position that he's played before, that he's familiar with, that he can still go and have fun with. It kind of just it kind of changes the thought processes in the brain that, hey, look, I don't have the pressure that I have to, go play this other position, because we do have other kids that can play second base pretty well. So we just mixed it up a little bit. I feel like I could see a difference in him just in the inning or two that he played a different position. It took some pressure off of him, that it's not uh, so imperative that he's on at a certain position, and plays it at a high level. I mean, because he had made some errors. I guess I should have pointed this out, but earlier in the game, he made some errors that, this is where I started to see the cracks. Shortstop threw him a ball, and he just outright just dropped it. He missed it pretty bad. I could tell he was upset, and it was carrying over to him with his hitting. And and there's some other things going on with his hitting that are technical that we won't get into just yet. But I mean, I could tell it was starting to creep in his head, in his hitting. So being able to take some of this pressure off some of these kids without making them feel like they've done something wrong is very important. So that is something that I wanted to make sure everybody keeps an eye out for. Is kids that are pushing, kids that feel like they got to do everything, because you don't want that. I mean, baseball is a team sport. No one player can dominate baseball by themselves on a team. So, but also, conversely, on all that, I saw some kids that were continuing to rise to the occasion, because I told you I didn't feel like we had that good of a game. But we had some kids that we've really been working with that are starting to show the fruits of our labor, of their labor, really. I mean, they've been going home and working on it. I mean, we had I'm sitting here thinking right off the top of my head, that 4 kids actually, now that I think about it, that just continue to get better and better and better. I mean, these 4 kids that I'm thinking of, they all got they all went 2 for 2. I think one of them went 3 for 3. Um, they just continue to get better. I mean, at least 2 of these kids couldn't even touch the ball whenever the season started, as far as hitting. A couple of them didn't even know what position they were really going to play. There's one of them that I'm still kind of wondering, can I get him focused enough for him to play a specific position? But he actually made some pretty good defensive plays in the field as well, or a defensive play, a very important play. I mean, that is kind of the whole point that I just made about how baseball is it's a team sport. Whenever one goes down, the other one has to pick up their teammate. They have to continue to pick each other up and come through whenever the time is necessary. And I mean, these are things that we all have to be pointing out in our post game speeches, because it is so important to their psyches, because they need to know when they're doing something right at this age, because that kind of stuff is what keeps a team together. They keep playing together, they keep rooting for each other, cheering each other on whenever it's time for them to hit. Um, it was really fun to watch. It really was. Um, I will tell you, kind of piggybacking on some of that, before the game, one of my assistant coaches had found out that there was a death in his family, but he didn't want to tell his son. He wanted to. He wanted, it was kind of in their extended family, if you will, but he wanted his son to stay and play the game. He didn't want him to kind of find out about it just yet. So he kind of came to me and said, "Look, this is what we're going to do. We're gonna leave him with you. Um, one of the other parents is going to take him home. I need to go, be with my wife, be with my extended family." It's like, okay, fine. We have absolutely, go do what you need to do. This right here this is way more important than a baseball game right now. So, um, trying not to use names here. So we have another coach, another dad who helps coach. So we had him step in, and I could tell that the kid knew something was going on. He was tearing up because mom and dad were tearing up. No kid likes to see their mom and dad upset about anything. I mean, particularly young men, they think that their dads are invincible at that age. So whenever dad um, cracks a tear, it cuts young men deeply. So I had a little coach's moment. I brought him over to the side because he was getting upset. And I just, I told him, I said, look, man, you just take all the time you need because, this is 45 minutes before the game. I said, I'll sit right here with you if you want me to. I said, it's not a problem. Or if you need to, be alone, you just tell me and I'll leave you alone. And he said he didn't want to be alone. So he kind of leaned into me. We had a little bit of an embrace. I just told him that, sometimes things like this they're hard. There's no sometimes. They're always hard. And that's when he told me that, he said, it's just, I don't like it when my mom and dad are upset. And I said, I know, buddy. It's tough. It really is. I just told him this is a hard part about growing up. Sometimes we have to deal with stuff like this. I told him, that it's something to think about, that your dad and mom wanted you to be here having fun. They wanted you to be happy. And I told him, I pointed to the baseball field. I said, when you step out on that field, everything can be perfect. I said, the baseball field is a place where you can go and nothing else matters. Everything goes away. All your problems, anything that's going on in life. The field is a release. And I think he got it because he just nodded his head. He kind of embraced me again. And I said, look, one of his best buddies is on the team. I said, why don't you go over there and throw with your buddy over here? And I said, if you need anything, you come find me. But I said, when you step out on that field, let it be your release. Have a good day. I said, I promise you it'll make you feel better. And that's a good point because, oftentimes we don't sit here and think about the problems that some of these kids are carrying around, not necessarily this specific instance, but, some of these kids are carrying around issues from home that we can't even fathom. So I tried to just tell this young man that it's okay to use sports as a release, because sports is a release for many kids out there that have things going on, not just tragic stuff like what happened in this instance. So never be naive to the fact that you might be really helping somebody get away from their problems. Try to always be mindful of that kind of stuff. But overall, hey, it was a good team win. Really proud of our boys. One of the things that I always tell our kids, even when we win, is that I don't care what the scoreboard says. Yes, we won. I don't care about that, though. What I care about is, did we get better? Can we get even better? And looking at this game, I really wanted to make sure that they understood that everybody needs to look at this game and say, what is one thing that I can get better at? I said, who here thinks that there's at least one thing that they can get better at? And everybody raised their hand. They seemed a little bit excited. I'm happy about that. I'm happy they were a little excited about getting better. They knew they didn't play their best game. They were excited about the win, but they weren't as exuberant as we were for the last game, say. So I think I might be rubbing off on them a little bit. Teams tend to take the personality of their coach, it seems like. But I am really, 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 really proud of our boys. They recognize they can get better here. They realize it's not where you start, it's where you end up. Because the reality is we want to continue to build and get better game by game. Because in this particular league, nothing really matters until you get to the tournament. But like I said, it's perfect to how I coach because, again, I don't care what the scoreboard says. I just want us to get better. What can we get better at? I'm proud of you. Enjoy the win, but let's get better, continue to get better, and we're all going to have fun doing it. But anyways, that's all I got for today, guys. Good victory, good lessons learned there. Again, go ahead and check us out on YouTube, like and subscribe there for us. Go ahead and check us out on Rumble as well. Give us a Rumble. Why not? And go ahead and check us out on Twitter at _dad_code, as well as on Instagram, the Dad Code Podcast, and on Facebook, the Dad Code. Go ahead and follow us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Audible, Amazon, Apple Podcasts. Did I say Google Podcasts? Whatever. Wherever you get your audio podcasts at, we're there. Go ahead and give us a follow there as well. That's all I got for today. Coach Dad, out.